lost valuable ground. He did, however, wind up fourth. This contact between Mario and Roberto Guerrero could have been worse. Both continued, but debris brought out another yellow. Sneva and Rick Mears were first and second nearing the halfway mark when Michael passed both in impressive manner and sailed to his second 1986 win. Once again, from the in-car camera, it was evident that Michael had the far superior car for this race. He was even able to make his final pit stop without giving up the lead. Indy 500 winner Bobby Rahal was not competitive all day. He was 2 laps off the pace in 6th at the end. His Indy nemesis, Kevin Cogan, also struggled to a 12th place finish. The Milwaukee Mile saw some great close racing. This 5 abreast formation involved Sneva, Raul Boesel, Mears, Steve Chassie, and Rutherford. Despite the fact he ran out of fuel on the last lap, Sneva was second, Mears third. Now as we head for Portland and another live ESPN telecast this Sunday at 5 Eastern Time, Michael has the points lead over Sneva. Cogan is third, Al Jr. fourth, Rutherford fifth. Mears, Rahal, Mario, Sullivan, and Fittipaldi complete the top 10.
The second ever American Racing Series event here at Milwaukee. The fledgling circuit is still down on season entrants, only 12 qualified, but that solid nucleus still there. Steve Brent has become a fast open wheeler, and someday he's going to win one of these. He dived past pole setter Jeff Andretti, but was black flagged when his engine began spewing oil. A number of technicality made him start last at Phoenix and maybe the fastest car. Mike Groff, headed for a great weekend, inherited the lead. Gerald Rice, the fastest practicer, moved past Jeff for second, and that's how they stayed. Phoenix winner Steve Millen couldn't climb to the front, was fourth. Sprint car racer Billy Bode, a respectable fifth again before wiping out in turn 4. 3 racers, Tommy Byrne, Albert Naon, and Scott Wood, tried ovals for the first time and spent the weekend learning.
Completing the support card at Milwaukee, Super V's. It would not be an especially exciting race until the last lap. Steve Bren, pole sitter, was leader for 5 laps, but Mike Groff in car number 5 stole the lead at the end of an inadvertent yellow. Steve charged back, however, and regained the lead through most of the rest of the race. Jeff Wilson's spin brought out the yellow with just 5 laps to go. They lined up for the restart, and as if the clock had been turned back a full week to Indianapolis, Groff got the jump on Bren at the drop of the green, shot to the inside, and made the pass. Groff led only 14 laps, but he led the most important to last. They used to call this the mini Indy division, an appropriate term for this race. The Jufrey brothers, promoters at the Milwaukee Mile, have reportedly sold their promotion rights to Dick Richards, owner of the Red Carpet Inns motel chain.
In our next segment, Rick Hendrick's Winston Cup team wins in NASCAR. Richmond, Bodine.
And Rick Johnson wins it all in the LA Coliseum. Stay with us.
NASCAR's Winston Cup has become the most competitive in years, and one team won its 3rd race of the season, but for the driver, his first since 1984. The Hendrick team, a solid day. Jeff Bodine pole again. TV commentator, race driver Benny Parsons second quick, and New England Jeff would lead first. For another team used to success, the Junior Johnson duo, their day was a contrast in failure. It begins early. Neil Bonnet smokes out on lap 4 while fencing with Dale Earnhardt. Teammate Darrell Waltrip is the innocent victim. That was Dale and Rusty Wallace getting by. Waltrip's engine suicided shortly thereafter. He finished a most uncharacteristic last. Morgan Shepherd in for a long day, top 5 material, but first this. Cale Yarborough breezes by, Terry Labonte is gathered, and Wallace spins to miss. Then this little moment of who has the right-of-way indecision. You see, even the pros don't know what to do at a 4-way. Hendrick Stable, Bodine, and Tim Richmond would lead collectively 3/4 of this 500-miler. Here, Mr. Constant, Earnhardt chases. That smoke just before the rain looked serious, but it wasn't. Rain? No, a monsoon made this 2 races in 1. NASCAR stretched the red flag past the halfway point to make the race official, but Bodine's prayers, leaders at the time, were not answered as sunshine returned. The second half kickoff belonged to Richmond, leading 64 of the remaining circles, were triangles. Eddie Bierschwal drew the Elmo Langley assignment this week and discovered the infield didn't dry. And with just 4 laps to go, Buddy Arrington, the same grass. He attempts returning to the speedway, but somebody misjudged something. Shepherd clobbers, Bodine scrapes, then Harry Gant savagely shortens up the other end. That was Yarborough barely escaping. The day's 3 were each treated at the track hospital. For the second week in a row, the race ended under yellow. Tim got beat to the line last week by Darrell, but scored this with room to spare. The 10th winner in 13 events. The rest of the top 5 consist of Earnhardt, Cale, Ricky Rudd, and Bill Elliott. The Richard Childress car remains on top of points easily. Waltrip still second, Allison, Bobby of course, third, then Rusty Wallace and Tim Richmond.
Rain, fog, and haze delayed the start of the Charlotte-Daytona Dash race at Pocono on Saturday. Number 21, Mike Swaim, defending series champion, beat Larry Caudill to the checkered. Tommy Houston in a V6 Buick won the NASCAR Grand National race Saturday night in Hickory, North Carolina. Ronnie Silver was a close second.
The twin 125 All-Pro races at DeSoto Speedway in Bradenton, Florida were shared by Steve Grissom and Gary Ballou, who is the series points leader. The American-Canadian Tour was in Milton, Vermont, and Chuck Bound beat Robbie Crouch by a few feet. And in a qualifying heat, Dale Shaw did a rollover after tangling with Larry Caron and Barney McRae. Shaw later returned for the feature. Richard Petty will be making his 1,000th Winston Cup start this Sunday on the newly repaved Michigan International Speedway. It will be his 437th consecutive start. The Firecracker 400 at Daytona will be the next race after Michigan. That's the halfway point of the season, and the points leader, Earnhardt, will be receiving a $150,000 bonus.
Eddie Lawson of the U.S. won the 500cc portion of the Austrian Motorcycle Championship race last weekend. Here in the U.S., the action was at Road America, and Dennis Torres reports.
Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, the longest road circuit in America, and this past weekend, site of round 4 of the Camel Pro Road Racing Championships, sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association. The star of the Super Cycle weekend was Honda factory rider Wayne Rainey out of Downey, California. In Saturday's Superbike final for production-based machines, Rainey took the lead at the start and led every lap on the way to his second straight Superbike victory. Second to Rainey was number 1 Fred Merkel out of Stockton, California. Rainey's Superbike victory snapped a 2-race win streak held by his Honda teammate Merkel, who had won the 1984 and 85 Superbike races at Road America. When Rainey took the checkered flag for his Formula One win, he became the only rider in Road America history to win the Superbike and Formula One finals on the same weekend. This is Dennis Torres reporting from Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Rick Johnson could have stayed home and watched the final Supercross on TV. He already had the championship locked. But much to the chagrin of the others, he came. The Los Angeles Colliseum, he had emerged from the gate 4th, but simply moved up and took the lead from defending champ Jeff Ward on lap 3, then disappeared. Johnson, David Bailey, and Ward began the season last winter sharing the first 3 wins. Bailey and Johnson each had streaks of 3 in a row, and Rick ended up with 6 wins in the 12-race series. Also, the final points contest for the Western Regional 125s. Minnesota's Donnie Schmidt survives as champ. Final 250 standings, Honda mounted Johnson having an all-universe year. Bailey, he sat out the final race because of illness. The Johnny O Show, the highest-ranked non-Honda, Ward, and Keith Bowen.
Coming up at Mid-Ohio, 1 race ends at the beginning.
And for another, this end is probably another beginning.
A big weekend of racing at Jim Truman's Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Irv Hare captured his 4th consecutive Kelly American Challenge race. With a report on other divisions, here's Jim Roller.
Pennsylvania's Al Holbert and England's Derek Bell teamed up to win the $114,000 Camel Grand Prix at Lexington, Ohio's Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course Sunday afternoon. Holbert and Bell, winners of the prestigious 24 Hours of Le Mans just 1 week ago, put a stranglehold on the event with their Porsche number 14 after only 5 laps. First, fast qualifier Hans Stuck, number 5, who had teamed with Bell and Holbert in their Le Mans triumph, dropped out with electrical problems. Then second place, Drake Olson and Bryce Cobb, twice winners this season, lost a lap with gearbox problems. Through the blistering heat, temperatures near 90 degrees, the only team that could keep pace was the Jaguar of Bob Tullius of Winchester, Virginia, and Oldwick, New Jersey's Chip Robinson. Jaguar had won the day's Kodak Copiers pit stop competition and used lightning-fast pit work in the race to keep up. The fast pit work, though, was to no avail. Holbert and Bell, in front of one of the largest crowds in Mid-Ohio history, led every lap, setting a new speed record for the twisty 2.5-mile road course over 98 miles per hour. The Camel Light class for smaller prototypes saw first-time winner Steve Durst of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and Orlando, Florida's Mike Brockman take the checkered flag. They led every lap on their way to a 2-lap victory. The GTO race for big bore sports cars saw a Ford 1-2 sweep led by Scott Pruitt and teammate Bruce Jenner. An early challenge to Pruitt's dominance ended when Chevy man Jack Baldwin of Woodstock, Georgia spun after hitting some oil. After this long pit stop to clear the damage, Baldwin battled back for third. The weekend's GTU honors went to Californian Bob Earl driving a Pontiac Fiero. Earl held off Mazda pilots Roger Mandeville and Amos Johnson to take his third win of the year. Reporting from Lexington, Ohio, this is Jim Roller.
Next week, IMSA travels to the streets of West Palm Beach, Florida, and ESPN will have coverage of the race Sunday, June 22nd at 3:30 Eastern Daylight Time.
On Saturday at Mid-Ohio, round 2 of the 1986 IROC Series. 3 Indy drivers helicoptered and private jetted to the race. They had qualified just a couple hours earlier in Milwaukee. This race would be an Al Unser race. Aha, which one, you say? Well, just watch. Klaus Ludwig dropped a wheel off the pavement at the start and spun off course. Home tracker Bobby Rahal, pole, and most had conceded the race before it began, except Al Unser. Oh, Junior. He beat Bobby into turn 1. As Hans Stuck was finding a new way across the hairpin keyhole corner through the grass, the stock car racers really showed well. Darrell Waltrip from 6th to 3rd, Bill Elliott 10th to 4th. Rick Mears was eliminated when road racer Hans Stuck uprooted him. That's Cale Yarborough just sneaking through. Rahal held second all race long, and though Darrell Waltrip pressured, well, it was no pressure for Bobby. Unser, Sr., started dead last and moved up all day, eventually finishing 5th. And so that means, yup, Junior, the youngest IROC driver ever, won this race easily.
The Portland Rose Festival got underway last week. Now, there are many different types of activities, but auto racing is one of the most important. The Pro Sports 2000 teams got together last weekend. Their points leader, Scott Atchison, wasn't among them. He was in the Super V race at Milwaukee. But Rod Granberry, the 1985 IKF 125 champion, took his first pole and first win of the year. The Rose Cup race involved regional Trans Am type cars. The National Series is there this weekend along with the Indy cars. Number 41, Bill Crane, made a lot of noise, but did little damage. David Schroeder in number 54 led until motor trouble. That's when Monty Shelton in his Porsche went into the lead, and he won.
This weekend at the Trans Am race in Portland, Jack Roush will run 4 cars, 2 Mercures for Scott Pruitt and Pete Halsmer, and 2 Capris for Chris Neifel and Mike Miller. Robbie Unser will be one of those competing in the Skip Barber Saab series that will debut at the Meadowlands later this month.
There are rumors that the San Air IndyCar race in Canada next year will be moved to the streets of Three Rivers, Canada over Labor Day weekend. The USAC Championship dirt cars traveled east to Hagerstown, Maryland last weekend. After a rainout on Friday, Jack Hewitt captured the feature Sunday night.
When we return, all limits are off in Baja as the off-road invades.
And Big Daddy is back on track in his unlimited Top Fueler. Rain 2 weeks ago postponed several races, including the Indy 500 and the Cajun Nationals NHRA drag meet. That show was finally held last weekend. Butch Leal is in the near lane here in the Pro Stock Finals. Warren Johnson is in the far lane. Johnson won at Atlanta in April. Butch was runner-up at Gainesville in March. Leal is a little over-anxious. He red lights, and Johnson's Forenza takes the title. It's the Mongoose against Meyer in the Pro Funny Car Finals. Neither has won in NHRA this year, but McEwen was runner-up at Gainesville. Meyer goes up in smoke, and McEwen's Corvette does a 586 to take the win. 2 streamliners in the Top Fuel Finals. Gary Ormsby's Castrol-sponsored machine voted best appearing for this meet, and Don Garlitz, who was top qualifier at 267.8. Don captures his second title of the year with a 260.4 and adds to his Top Fuel points lead.
Last weekend's off-road marathon, the famed Baja. Mike Botula reports.
This year, the course is a single 492-mile loop that takes the field east and south from Ensenada, touching the Pacific coast before heading east to San Felipe on the Sea of Cortez and returning to Ensenada. Corky McMillan and his son Scott are the overall winners in their Chenoweth Porsche. Time, 8 hours, 54 minutes, with an average speed of 55.28 miles an hour. Many of the drivers finish well after dark. and some just don't finish. Mike Botula reporting on the Baja Internacional.
The wooded hills near Wellboro, Pennsylvania are all abloom this time of year, but heavy rain recently caused a mud problem for SCCA Pro Ralliers last weekend. But neither that nor broken drivetrains could keep some from their appointed rounds. John Buffum in his number 2 Audi beat the number 1 Mazda of Rod Millen by about 6 seconds. Buffum's Audi Secord has been withdrawn from World Rally competition because of a series of fatal accidents this year.
They're going to go with basically a slower type of car next year, and Audi basically doesn't want to be involved with the carnage, if I want to use that word. It's been happening in Europe, unfortunately, lately.
Audi will also try to set a world speed record in a couple of weeks at Talladega with Bobby Unser driving. They've already turned a lap at 206.
The World Acropolis Rally near Athens, Greece was won by the team of Juha Kankkunen and Juha Pironen, their second victory of the year. Elsewhere in Europe, Pierluigi Martini captured the Formula 3000 race in Imola, Italy.
Now here's this week's trivia question. Who among the following active drivers is second on the Winston Cup all-time start list? A. Buddy Baker, B. Bobby Allison, C. Dave Marcus, D. Cale Yarborough, or E. David Pearson? I'll have the answer in a moment. Here's the answer to this week's trivia question. The driver second on the all-time Winston Cup start list is B. Bobby Allison with 659. Baker is third with 634. Pearson fourth with 571. Marcus fifth with 527. And Cale sixth with 524. Allison, by the way, began his Winston Cup career 3 years after Petty.
So many of today's successful racers, particularly the open-wheelers, have their roots in go-karting. We thought, therefore, you might be interested in knowing it's still going very strong. The street race in Quincy, Illinois, for instance, has grown to one of America's major karting attractions in America over the last 16 years. Winding through the city park, it's also one of the most scenic. 15 states represented and almost 400 entries for the 8 classes. Over 25,000 people gathered around the 1 1/4 mile road course, the largest single-day karting event in America. Hometowner Terry Trader was the meet's big winner, sweeping the light and medium weight stock classes. Illinois' Scott Sullivan won the 2 heavy stock divisions. Indiana's John LaRue won the demanding open class. Last graduate from this group, road racing's Scott Pruitt.
2 races this weekend here on ESPN. Formula One from Montreal Sunday at 11:50, and the IndyCar race from Portland Sunday at 5 Eastern Time. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber. Reports on those events and others next week here on Speedweek.
Speedweek has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. And by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution.